welcome to our Maryville Cares on this beautiful Monday. And as we can see, the boats are coming out as we get to our Memorial Day coming up this weekend. But I'm just really excited for this visit with our friends from Options for Youth who have agreed to come and talk with us today about the work that they're doing for Options for Youth for parenting teens. So I was hoping, ladies, that you could share your name and a little bit about your experience at Options for Youth and your educational background and what led you to this work.
Absolutely. I'll go first. My name is Alexandria Brown. I am a home visitor at Options for Youth. My education background is I have a psychology degree from UIC, graduated a couple years ago during the pandemic. That was tough. What led me to Options for Youth was my passion for helping people. I love it.
Wonderful.
That was nice.
It sure was.
My name is Jasmine. I am a bilingual home visitor as well. I have been here going on like almost 3 years, and my background is also in psychology with a minor in sociology. I graduated during the pandemic as well, and I really enjoy the work we do and how we build a sense of community with those who we work with.
Well, if you don't mind sharing, if I can share a couple things. First of all, congratulations to both of you for graduating from a wonderful school here in the city, which is not too far from our place here today. And also that, interestingly enough, you both, graduated with psychology. Mm-hmm. And I want to highlight that because, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this in our conversation, but specifically what we experienced in the pandemic that you said, it was hard. Mm-hmm. And, you're both role models to kind of get through that and be, persevere, but also acknowledging that this is a time where we're hearing, just not in the news, but we're experiencing with our families and our communities, varying different issues regarding mental health. Mm-hmm. And so from your psychology background, that's such a great foundation to share some of your expertise and what you're learning and how we're going to integrate that with the parents that you're working with. So, Jasmine, why don't you talk a little bit about Options for Youth as an organization?
Oh, for sure. So Options for Youth helps teen moms, just teen parents in general, but we focus more on the children. So our clients are the children, 0 to 3, and we also work with prenatal moms. So we make sure that they get the resources and anything that they need in specific. And we also just make sure that we're there for moral support. And as I said before, I like the fact that Options for Youth creates a sense of community. So just not too long ago, we had a Mother's Day brunch, which I thought was really beautiful.
It was really cute.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. Everyone got all nice and dressed up, and then we had a nice brunch. We also do field trips, so like in the fall, we'll go to the pumpkin patch. During December, we have an event with Santa Claus coming out and a puppeteer and the whole 9 yards for the kids. They just absolutely enjoy it. There's candy all around. We also love to celebrate the parents, so making sure that we know that they have needs and we meet those needs as best as we can. And we also work with partnered schools in Chicago public schools, so I feel like that's really nice.
Well, I just want to share that, as we have had Maryville Academy, specifically the crisis nurseries, had a strong working relationship with our Options for Youth for years. And one of the neat things that I've experienced was, as someone from the crisis nursery experiencing the staff and the young ladies and families, is that I always did feel connected in very special ways because the invitations that we've each shared with each other. For example, the holiday party that Jasmine described, we have been invited as part of a consortium of organizations. So yes, there's fun and excitement and the holidays, but you have such a nice way of integrating resources for families. So we're invited to share information about the Maryville Crisis Nursery, But also we did some interesting things with having field trips where some of the parents came to visit the nursery, they did a fun activity, and then they also get to learn about who we are and what we do. So that way, as we all know, mothers and parents need as much support as they can under
Absolutely.
the best of circumstances. And so when you're trying to reach a goal of getting your education, particularly a high school education, we want to make sure that all the different components of support are there. And obviously, you know, the organization has done such a nice job with that. Perhaps you can share a little bit about the baby talk model that you use and how that's integrated with the families.
Okay, so the baby talk model, well, there's multiple models for baby talk, but we integrate baby talk with getting the parents to do activities with their kids. We are very big on letting the parents do most of the work, and we kind of are just there to guide the parents if they need help, or if they're like lost, or they don't even know where to start.
Right.
So
Which is many of us, right?
yeah. So we're kind of there. We kind of integrate baby talk in that way. Again, we are kind of just on the sidelines. The parents are doing most of the work. And yeah, I think that's pretty much how we integrate baby talk.
Well, and I think one of the main ideas that I always think about when I think about baby talk is walking alongside.
Yes,
And
we're very big
that's
on that.
certainly the examples that you gave were walking alongside. And I think when you're thinking about raising a family and what that circle of support is for our families, whether you're a teen parent, you're a 40-year-old parent, whether your child, you know, is 2, or you're pregnant, or you're trying to launch your child into high school or college. These are all periods of development that we all sort of need that circle of support. And that surely is something that through the activities and through some of the education information that you give, and I bet referrals is a big component to
Yes, absolutely.
what you're doing. And when you think about your experiences with the families, what stands out to you when you know, I think sometimes there's some hesitation about recognizing the strength of parents, and particularly when parents are a little bit younger, and what that's going to look like. And what would you say that you see in our young moms that stand out to you?
Did you wanna?
I feel like it definitely takes a village, as we said, like that circle of community for not only the children but also the young moms. I mean, being a first-time parent at a very young age, you don't know what you're getting into, you know? But what I think and what I see when I go on these home visits in person with these young moms is that I'm sitting in a room, whether it be the living room, the kitchen, and the child is finally with their mom. And now, mind you, sometimes the children and their mom don't have as much time together because mom has to study or she goes to work or whatever the case may be. But sometimes, in this case, grandma or mom of the young mom kind of, you know, shies away. And it's not to say that it's a bad thing. It's just, I love to see how encouraged the young mom is by us and how we're there to hold her hand and show her, you know, she's probably, your child is probably not walking right now. What are some exercises we can do to, you know, encourage baby to get up or to let go and stop walking on the furniture and things like that.
Because they're in the exploratory
For
age,
sure.
right?
For sure. And, you know, we just have to encourage mom, you know, respectfully in their boundaries and everything. You know, there's stuff on the floor, oh, let's pick up the stuff so baby doesn't put anything in their mouth, because at this point they're putting everything in their mouth, you know. So that's something we have to be cautious about, but respectfully mentioning that as well.
Yeah. And do you, and being able to say it in a way that it's received.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, because ultimately, your presence is helping the quality of that relationship. You know, one of the things that we've been talking about at the nursery and just in our work with families is, you know, you were talking about that connection. And how do we promote that in a way that's authentic and supportive, and that I think sometimes we forget that just being with someone is as, if not more important than, you know, maybe some of the other things we kind of get caught up on. And I'll just use this one as an example. I recently was talking to a mom who really was putting a lot of emphasis on a birthday party. And, you know, it's a young child, and obviously birthdays are very special,
Yeah.
right? But I think there was a point where it seemed like maybe the outside elements of having a birthday was kind of overtaking, you know, the purpose of the birthday. And I can get that, you know, as we get older, and we have to think about how birthdays were celebrated in our own families. And so there might be, excuse me, some cultural dynamics to that. And then yet, how is that being perceived by the child? Because really what they want is your attention.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you know, although other components might be important, you know, the value of your financial well-being and the cost of these things, and weighing some of these things out and recognizing that it's okay to have a simple cake, or, you know, it's okay not to go to Chuck E. Cheese, or maybe it is okay, but, you know, kind of facilitating that conversation about the importance of being present with and what that really means, because our children really are seeking that type of connection in a way that, as you describe, particularly when you're in school, you ladies remember when you were in school, and when you're trying to accomplish something or you're on a deadline, and then there's distractions, and I don't want to look at a child as a distraction, but there can be distracting when you're trying to complete something. How to kind of figure that all out and really prioritize all those components.
Things. Yeah.
It's not easy, is it?
No, for sure. It's
Definitely like a
not.
juggling act.
We get a lot of young moms that are like, oh, it's almost their third birthday. I'm like, what's something you wish, you know, you could do more with your child? And it's like, I just wish I would have done more when they were so small. Because it's that relationship that not only we build as home visitors with these young parents and young children, but also the relationship that we see that the young parents build with their own child, that makes a whole lot of a difference. I mean,
and we know, right, in terms of attachment and having a child have an adult that they feel safe and secure. You know, you're talking about, you know, when you go on a visit, you know, there's probably certain key things that you're looking for. I would guess number one is safety.
Yes.
I don't know what number two and number three would be, but I think it might depend on that family, right? And what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve. Are there any specific themes or things that you like to highlight for families that you would want to share with us, like in terms of sleeping or eating, or any particular developmental areas that you think families struggle with more than others that you have found?
Well, a big theme of ours is early literacy.
Okay.
So we definitely, like, once the child is born, we are handing mom books. Books. We're giving out books at least every visit.
Even when they're pregnant. we're
Yeah,
giving out books.
even
Yeah.
when they're pregnant. And we sometimes encourage the pregnant moms to just read a book out loud so that the baby just in utero knows, hey, we're reading a book. And so that's definitely the biggest thing that we highlight. And then, of course, safety and then health as well. So we're making sure that if they're prenatal, are you going to your doctor's visits? How the doctor's visits going? Do you need help getting to the doctor's visits? We got you. And then when the baby's here, how's the baby doing? What did the doctor say? This, that, and the other. Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
Well, I love, love, love your sharing the early literacy. When you come and visit the crisis nursery, because that is a big open invitation for both of you and anybody in the organization. But we also feel that that's very important, and it's an added on element. So any child who comes to visit the nursery gets a book to take home.
Oh, wow.
So we similarly have that, which is part of the Baby Talk model, recognizing that that really naturally creates an interaction.
Yes.
And, you know, when we were talking with some of our family workers, we talked about how sometimes when families, you know, the crisis nursery is located on the northwest side of the city, and so families come from all over. They come from the south side and way north, and, you know, they're taking public transportation in some cases, and it's can be a good 45 minutes to an hour and a half on a bus. And so we have found books to be a nice way, if you're sitting on the bus with a 2 or 3 year old, and, you know, you can only maybe do I Spy for so long.
For sure.
Creating the right book at the right time can really go a long way, just in that little, but it's not little, it's a long bus ride in some cases. But I do think that, you know, there's so much research about introducing that, not only for the point of literacy in terms of reading, but also being exposed to language.
Yes.
You know, there's
very important.
such an important component that experience that you're making sure is possible is promoting, you know, a parent using lots of different words and the child hearing all those different words. So we know how just in cognitive development, how important that is for them to be able to use their words so that way they can build their own sense of emotional, regulatory way of sharing when they're feeling a certain way once they get to that level. And so it's just really warms my heart to hear the two of you talk about these components of the program that are best practice and how they really are able to enjoy their children, because much of parenting, it's a lot of caretaking, and it can be exhausting. It can be, it is, you know. And so how do we make it fun? And those examples that you gave earlier can make it fun when you're just trying to get through the day,
Absolutely.
you know.
Sure, yes.
Have you found that the families find out about you through the school, or I was just kind of curious how that process works? Do you...
Yeah, well, most of my caseload is from the schools. We work with alternative schools like Ombudsman, and a lot of my referrals come from there through the school.
And then do you work with the social workers, or is that kind of a separate?
It's either the social worker or the counselor, sometimes even the principal. The principal at Ombudsman, Rosalind, me and her, we're close. So,
So very a sense of community, right?
yes,
It's
absolutely.
all
And-
hands on deck.
Absolutely, and these schools have community like get-togethers. I was just at one last Wednesday, and it's so nice. Like we have breakfast, we talk and share about what each organization does, and that way we have resources, and then we could give our clients those resources, or we could just swap. It's very nice.
Well, and I think one of the other pieces that has changed because of the the whole world has changed, but in terms of figuring out how to connect with families in a way that helps them get what they need. So one of the things that we've recently implemented in the last year was creating a monthly newsletter. And that newsletter has been very helpful, obviously, to share resources, but it's also been helpful to us to be more intentional about the types of information we think might be helpful to families. And
Absolutely.
I think sometimes when you have Google or the internet, you can look up anything. But as a parent, it's overwhelming to not everybody has time to be looking at all the websites and getting some of the details and being able to navigate a process of signing your child up for something. And so having a newsletter or having ways to connect, because when they leave your program, what you've really done is taught them advocacy, how to speak up about what they need, what their child needs, and then that really helps them for when they're ready for kindergarten.
Absolutely.
And when they get to those other grades where now they're going to have another community of parents, and how do they integrate their understanding of their child through their teacher. So, we know that home visiting best practices have shown time and time again in research how it has made, significant impact on the well-being of a family. And that's why I was just so grateful that you were able to join us today and, share some of those. Do you see that teen moms gravitate towards like a certain type of field trip or a certain type of activity with their children? Or I'm just kind of curious.
I think when we go to either the Children's Museum or the Museum of Science and Industry, those are like usually big hitters, because not only do the children get to go and play, but the parents also do too. And I think that's awesome because it taps into like, everybody has an inner child. So like it really taps into their inner child. And so like as the kids are playing, parents are playing, everybody's bonding. It's a really great experience all around.
And they're role modeling, right? They're in it, and that's a great opportunity to grow and learn and ask questions. They can bring that back to school themselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, I'm just thinking you are two amazing role models that they can see that, what would college look like for them?
Absolutely.
And have any of the young ladies and the dads talked to you about that? Or is there a component to the program for, what our next steps are, whether it's college or a vocation?
Well, our program is more focused on the baby.
Okay.
But we do encourage parents, whichever route they wish to take, whether it be finding a job or going to school. I do have some young moms that are in college. I have a young mom that finished with her dental hygienist degree.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they go everywhere and anywhere. So we're just here to support them and lead them in, steer them in the right direction if it is that's what they want.
Well, and I would imagine that what you're giving the parents is something that you received at some point in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For sure.
In some capacity.
Some capacity, yes.
Capacity.
It looks different for all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
I always consider the research that really talks about it can just take one person to change a life, right?
Absolutely.
And so when you think about different times in our lives, whether it's in grammar school or it was a coach or a teacher or a parent or a grandparent, a good neighbor,
friend's parent,
yeah, of course. I had that myself, so it stays with you for a lifetime, and I think that is something very special that you're integrating in a way that maybe you're not even talking about, but it's through your actions, Any other thoughts on themes or particular areas that you think that teen parents struggle with the most at this point, or just teens in general that you see in your work?
Well, in terms of events, we have Smart Parents, Smart Baby events every month.
Oh,
So we try to do at least one in person and one virtual.
oh,
So virtual ones will mostly look like a story time where we find like an animated story, or we have guest speakers, or there'll be times where the puppeteer will come on as well, like during Christmas. And then we have the in-person ones, which are mostly in like a library setting, which we have a room, and then we have snacks, and we have story
Very
time as
cute.
well, or some type of activity, whether it be coloring, painting. So one time we made a sandwich together as a family, promoting healthy
Love it.
foods and things like that. So I feel like since the pandemic, it's happened that with the pandemic, there's not, a lot of in-person things. So having that option to be online is really helpful.
Yeah, and I think we're at a point where we're recognizing moving forward that in-person and online are really good options, and it can work under, different circumstances. So I just want to thank both of you and, Options for Youth for your good work here in the city of Chicago, and for all our parents and our little ones. They're going to be our future leaders, and you're part of that. You have to remember that, because sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle with the day-to-day events that we're doing. But again, just want to thank everyone for joining us today for Maryville Cares. And again, if you need assistance, the Maryville Crisis Nursery has a 24-hour helpline, and we can connect you to Options for Youth, and that phone number is area code 773-205-3637. And again, that's a 24-hour phone number for the Maryville Crisis Nursery that can connect you with Options for Youth and other resources and support here in the Chicagoland area. So have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.